We have senators all over the place here in our Gillespie Group storefront studio 6 days before the general election. Senator Alan Cropsey, the Republican from DeWitt. Thanks for being here.
Hey, great being here this morning.
And Jason Allen, the senator from the Traverse City, northern Michigan area, on the other end of our telephone. Good morning to you.
Good morning, my friend. How are you this morning?
I've been very curious to talk to both of you. First, Senator Allen, if we would. Verge Bernero was at the Mackinac Bridge yesterday, the Democratic candidate for governor. He had a Save the Bridge rally, because Rick Snyder apparently hasn't ruled out the idea of selling the Mackinac Bridge. And Mayor Bernero said yesterday that if Mr. Snyder's elected governor, he sells the bridge to an out-of-state or foreign company, it would mean higher tolls, lost jobs, and Michigan dollars leaving our economy. He went so far on this Halloween week to be the boogeyman and say, can you imagine if it's the Tostitos.com bridge or the McDonald's Big Mac bridge? And he also said that in Indiana, Mitch Daniels sold off the toll roads, and that ended up in a huge deficit for that state. Can Rick Snyder, if he is elected, even sell the Mackinac Bridge? Do you know anything about that, Senator Allen?
It's a bunch of malarkey. You know, we had to fight back Granholm about 5 years ago when she tried to eliminate the independence of the Mackinac Bridge. If you remember, at that point in time, her former transportation director went off and started talking about how the bridge would be better operated without the board. And people like Al Cropsey and we went up and had hearings up there. We engaged the communities and certainly flipped Gloria Jeffs on this issue. And I just find this very humorous because, you know, when I've had Rick Snyder up, and in fact he'll be up this weekend, he starts talking about what we need to be doing and investing in the Upper Peninsula and investing in northern Michigan. I mean, take a look at it. He and his team have already been in the Upper Peninsula, 3 or 4 times? I mean, I was up at the Sioux 500 last winter, and he's there at the snowmobile race talking about what we need to be doing to invest.
Brian Calley, the would-be lieutenant governor, by the way, was in Alpena yesterday. However, this all got started, Senators, on the Frank Beckman Show. He airs on 1340 News Talk WJRW in Grand Rapids right after me and on the station in Detroit. Oh. And here's what happened. I'm going to read you the transcript here. Frank Beckman says, people have suggested the lottery might be privatized, the Mackinac Bridge. They've mentioned freeways. I'd like to get your thoughts on privatizing, the possibility of privatizing some of these services or entities. And here's what Rick Snyder said.
Yeah, well, a lot of it, Frank, is we need to put everything on the table, and given our budget situation. And so to set the stage for that, one of the things I would want to do before we get to that I've actually called for. And you can see I'm an old CPA when I describe this, but I think it's absolutely critical, is we need to do a real set of financial statements, particularly a balance sheet, in plain language.
Isn't that answer vague enough to interpret that he is considering doing something with the Mackinac Bridge? Because he did say everything's on the table.
Michael Patrick, I appreciate where that's coming from. I just find it very hard to believe when that has run so well and so independently for generations that that's going to happen. I recognize that there are things in the state that need dramatic overhaul, and when you sit down and take a look at his 10-point plan and what he is working on, we have some significant financial problems that need to be addressed. The whole aspect, again, of the privatization of the Mackinac Bridge, I just can't fathom that happening.
Let me ask you this. The good thing for you guys is you're term limited. You don't have to worry.
Right.
You don't have to worry about fundraising, right?
That's right.
But your colleague, Senator Roger Kahn from Saginaw, the Republican, was with us a little bit earlier this morning. He has raised more money than anyone else in the House or the Senate, apparently $467,644 for this campaign cycle. We talked with him a little bit earlier this morning about it, and here's what he said. I asked him, how do you have the Midas touch?
Well, I'm a physician, and I have to tell you, as a physician, you make a heck of a lot more money than you do as a legislator. And I think being a legislator is tougher than being a physician.
That's pretty candid, isn't it?
Yeah, that is very candid.
I guess so.
Roger is one of the few members of the Senate that will be coming back. I think people know that, and he is just an energizer bunny when he gets out there. And I remember several years ago I was out there helping him with some of his parades up in the Gratiot County area. And it's just amazing the amount of energy the man had. My wife and I both went up there and were helping out. And it was, he just from one side of the road to the other side, he's just everywhere in that district. And it's a very competitive district, so you'll find that in the marginal seats, that's where the money flows to, because people want to get their message out to your supporters.
Senator Allen, you ran for in the congressional primary in the 1st District and lost, I guess it was sort of a tie, but you lost by a couple of votes apparently to Dr. Dan Banashek, the Crystal Falls Republican. And listening in on the other end of our line, we're going to talk to him in a minute, is Glenn Wilson, the independent candidate there, who's been getting a lot of noise because the last I saw he was polling at 25%. Some people are suggesting that the Democrats and Gary McDowell are propping him up in order to take votes away from Dr. Banashek. Do you think that's possible?
I'm not aware of that. There may have been some things going on. I think it's just indicative of sort of the competitiveness of what is going on in this congressional race. People are concerned about the direction this country is headed, and the high unemployment rates and where our state is financially. And that also is reflected on America. I personally have not seen anything that what the Democrats are doing, but that could be the case.
Senator Cropsey, when Congressman Stupak gave in on the health care bill,
right.
Some people call it selling his vote. Was that the beginning of the Republican tsunami that could be coming in 6 days? Is that the time when the voters said, wow, that's how it works in the kitchen? I want something different.
Well, I think when the health care bill passed, and you had Nancy Pelosi out there saying, we have to pass this so you know what's in it. The way it was done, and then the huge takeover when people say, do we really want the government taking over health care in this nation this way, when it's, about 1/6 of our economy, just to have that nationalized all of a sudden? People, I think that's what really did it. I think the abortion issue in health care, where Stupak said that, no, he was going to make sure abortions weren't going to be paid for under this, and he eventually gave in on language that, all the pro-life people said that, well, this doesn't do anything. That was certainly a part of it, but I think the big part of it was people just saying, no, we don't want the government taking over. It's kind of interesting when you take a look at it, who's being hired under this. I haven't heard of any doctors being hired to help with health care. But you hear about 14,000 IRS agents coming in to enforce this, and all of a sudden, I'd much rather have Dr. Khan operating on me than I would an IRS agent.
I don't know. They're pretty good at removing,
Oh, they're
your
good
guts.
at removing your wallet.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're going to talk with Kirk Roy a little bit later. The Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan Vice President of National Healthcare Reform will be in the seat that you're in. We'll ask him that question precisely. Very quickly, Representative Ajema from Granville, the Republican, was with us earlier. He says that MDOT flat out lied. MDOT is saying, go ahead and investigate us. He says that they lied to lawmakers about the DRIC project in Detroit. Is that talk a little too tough?
Is that talk too tough? Well, MDOT will say that they've always had everything out there on the web. The fact of the matter is, about 4 years ago, the legislature specifically put language into the appropriation budget saying don't do the DRIC. MDOT went ahead and did it anyway. It's not so much that they have lied, but they have been very brazen in going against the will of the people and the will of the legislature. And they're supposed to be under our control as far as when we set policy, and the governor implements it, and it's just been very brazen. They're a department that's out of control. I think it's way beyond lying. I think they're just, they figure we dedicated funds, we're going to do what we want to do, and we don't care what the legislature says.
Wow. Glenn Wilson is on the line with us, the independent candidate in the 1st Congressional District. Nice to meet you.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Where would you stand for somebody right now who's wondering about your candidacy? We have listeners in Traverse City and Petoskey and throughout the North. Where do you stand on the political scale? You're independent. Some say that the Democrats are using you to steal votes from Dan Banashek. What's your makeup, your political makeup?
I'm an independent candidate. I believe I stand up for the will of the people. I've traveled to every city and town in this district. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 that we haven't been to. And I can tell you, all across this district, people are fed up with an out-of-control government. They're passing bills that are, I think, unconstitutional. They've stomped on state rights. They think that everything should be run from the ruling class in Washington, and we want our country back.
If Dr. Banashek were on the phone right now, he'd probably say just about the same thing, wouldn't he? What sets you apart?
In fact, I'm not under the control of the party. Even Dr. Dan Banashek is accepting PAC money, and he's running right down the party games and it's more of the same. It's just out of control.
How much does the job of a United States congressman pay?
$174,000 a year, I believe.
Is that a pay cut or a pay increase for you?
That would be a pay increase by far.
What do you do now?
What do I make now?
No, what do you do?
Oh, I own a internet company and a telephone company, and I'm a chip-level programmer.
Okay. Right now, I saw 25% polling. Does that jive with what you see?
I have no idea. I think it's a little higher than that when you actually drive around and talk to the people.
Well, you got 6 days left, and I know you'll be hot-footing it. What's the one message you want people to hear over the next 6 days from you?
You're not alone. You're not alone. If you're fed up with what's going on, it's up to you. You have the power to put a stop to this. The power is in the vote.
Glenn Wilson, independent candidate in the 1st Congressional District. Thank you very much, Senator Cropsey, and Senator Allen, too.
Hey, great being here this morning, Michael Patrick.
See you soon.